right, so thank you for your questions. Very insightful. So definitely deep thinking into those concepts, and I appreciate that. You asked me two questions. One was on the index that I proposed, meaning if a HR organization wants to improve digital wellness, then develop a matrix, develop an indices, some sort of indices. So you asked what best practices are there. I think for the few tools that I've seen, if they leverage on what we already know about digital problems, and I think you had alluded to them earlier. So how much time are you spending online? And I think I had indicated young people are spending a lot of time. If an adult in their 30s is spending 6 hours, 24 divided by 6 is 4, right? So that means they're spending a quarter of their day online. How much of that is productive? And you can safely assume that the longer the hours, the productivity will go down. So I've seen tools that measure the amount of time that you spend using devices, the type of media or content you're accessing, whether you're taking breaks, and then if you can include, and this I just thought of, I don't think I've seen this, but I thought of it from what Albert had said earlier. If you do things that actually measure what's your kind of environment, posture, things like that, I think those would add to the metrics. But the additional one that I've seen is around quality of life measures, because you want to link the digital wellness to the person's wellness, because if they are well digitally and they are well mentally, then they are more productive at work. So you have to include some quality of life measures. So I've seen some that ask about depression, work satisfaction, they screen a little bit around burnout. So I think if you cover those bases, in terms of best practices, those are the ones that I've seen, but I haven't seen any that really talk about your environmental space. The second question you asked me was around effectiveness and something. I missed the other part, but I'm hoping my response will not be watered down because I missed that part. You asked around effectiveness, and if you want to measure that something is effective, you have to ask if it is doing what it is meant to do. So your measures have to pick, if we are trying to improve digital wellness amongst our staff, first of all, to what end? You want them to be more productive so that they do their work efficiently, so that you maintain your donor relations and you meet your targets and you make your profits, and so you have to find a way to draw a dotted line between their digital wellness to that end goal that you have. So is it doing what it should do? Is it helping them to be more productive? So you may want to measure productivity. I think that's one of the effectiveness measures. And then in terms of outcomes and impact, I used to work, there was a time when one of the works I used to do, we went to AAR. So what was happening in AAR, there's something we call in mental health, hapa na pale syndrome. So it's a client who will come, daktari, hapa. Then they go do tests for the head. Daktari, hapa. Then they do tests for the back. Daktari, and then they do tests for the chest. And AAR at some point noticed that there were, and I only say this because they implemented a best practice. So see in our Mulika, they implemented a best practice. They realized that a lot of those, what now we call psychosomatic symptoms, were actually symptoms of depression, and in some cases symptoms of anxiety. So what would happen is the GPs would refer for this test, refer for that test, and then realize there's nothing. Then they say, okay, I think you need to go and see a psychologist, go and see a psychiatrist. So what they started to do was to implement depression screening as part of their primary care. So you'll come, hapa, and then we'll say, we'll check for that, but I would also like to assess for whether you're experiencing symptoms of depression. So the only reason I'm mentioning that is because at the big level, when they're able to detect most of the people who have depression and anxiety, and they don't need to send for an MRI and an ECG and an EEG, it actually reduces the amount of money the insurance is spending on doing those tests. So the same applies to an organization. Even if you provide medical insurance to your clients, to your staff, if they are well, and they're also digitally well, and they are productive and they're in good health, then your utilization of insurance and all of that actually goes down. So those are some of the impact in terms of long-term impact. Are we spending a lot more in terms of liability on insurance because we've not tightened all our loopholes around wellness and well-being? So that was a very long story, but I hope it landed the message around If you look at effectiveness, absolutely in terms of impact, you also want to look at where the organization may lose money because of staff that are not well.
Yes, so in regards to the question about age, the onset, that's what you meant, right? When is the right age for? So I'll give you a study that was done by WHO who recommend below 1 year old should not be exposed to screen time or digital content. But then again, there are other studies that differ. There's some that say below the age of 2, there's some that say below the age of 4, and so on and so forth. So you figure out there's so many different content or concepts that all these studies give the reason as to why you shouldn't do it at that age and so on. So last year or the year before, there was a very high correlation to autism and screen time, where people would come out and say, if you expose your kid from this age to screen time, then it leads to an onset of autism. I don't know if you saw that research. So there's so many different contexts that are given. What I can say is when it comes to screen time, moderation is key. How long are you exposing your kid to the screen? What are they watching? Are they watching, what is this lady's name? There's a lady online that kids really love. Are they watching information that is beneficial, and how long are they watching it for? And importantly, we go back to the 30-minute, 1 hour, no screen time before bedtime. So make sure they are not engaged to screen time at least 1 hour before bedtime. So what I can say to that is it's all dependent on the caregiver and also how you moderate. So maybe I can say moderation is key. You can expose them at 1 year. What are they watching? How long are they watching it for? Yeah, just that.
Thank you so much. So basically you're saying everything taken in moderation becomes healthy. Okay. Thank you so much to my amazing panelists and also to you, the participants. Okay, you guys. What are you? Attendees. Thank you so much. This conversation is only the beginning. As you've heard, addressing mental health in the digital age takes a lot of collaboration, from the tech guy to design to education to policies to parents to caregivers. It takes a lot for us to be able to say there is going to be digital wellness. But at the end of the day, we've also realized that we need to take digital wellness into our own hands. As parents, as learners, as individuals, it's in our hands as well. So thank you so much to IIDP for helping us have this conversation. And as you go home, in your communities, in your workplaces, make sure that you know you attended a digital wellness forum or symposium. And there's always something that you can do. If you feel like they keep on sending emails to you even on Sundays, you can always let them know, this is not healthy. So you're not here for no reason, okay? You're here because maybe your company needs it, your child, your family, yeah. So thank you so much, and I wish you guys an amazing lunch. Thank you.